Just one second here. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Sorry, I was trying to get switched over.
So I have been waiting 16, maybe 36 hours, a long time to hear it. I knew I didn't want to bug you, but I knew maybe, hopefully, that you would answer my call, and you did. So just, I'm not going to interfere in any way. Tell me where you're at.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. It's been so crazy. Um, I mean, this document is really, I guess it's not like news to me because it's stuff that, a lot of it is stuff that, have been out in the rumor mill. But it's, of course, the first time we're like actually seeing any of it in black and white. Like as far as the ritualistic aspect of it. And Brad Holder was a name that, I think that you and I probably talked about him at some point, but he's, been on the my radar for a minute anyway. But I think it's pretty, validating that it wasn't just stuff that crazy people found on the internet,
Well, no,
I don't know what it means. I don't know that it means anyone's innocent, but it's interesting for sure.
A lot of you guys have thrown this at me before, and you have for sure, I know. So let's just, it is validating for you because I've heard you talk about these things to me in my ears, both on telephone calls, on recorded calls, on text messages. We can search those and can find references to this guy. So let's just back up in time. You're on the ground there. You've actually ridden on the highway. Driven beside where just back up. I want you to just like I'm gonna be quiet. That's what I'm gonna do. I want you to tell me about what this means and this whole conception of things. Like from a long time ago, the very beginning to now. Like, what does this mean? I mean, what is this important or what? Lauren, tell me.
I mean, it's kind of, I'm still processing how I feel about it. Even though it's something that I heard about or read about, and it was something that I looked into, thinking could have something to do with it. It's still kind of scary because now it seems real. Like whereas before it was, maybe there's like a urban legend possibility of some satanic shit going on in the woods 20 minutes away from my house, but not, I could debunk it as just as easily as I could prove it. But now it's kind of, it's always different when it becomes legit, when information becomes legitimized. The information isn't any different. It's just the people who are saying the information are more legitimate than where I'd heard it before. Does that make sense? Like,
it does.
It legitimizes it a little bit, yeah.
It does.
But
I'm gonna let you go. Go ahead because I agree with you on that. Go ahead.
I mean, I just really think that it's crazy, and of course the defense, I'm still on the fence about Richard Allen. One day I think he's, this mastermind who's got us all fooled and he's just tricking us all. And then the next day I'm like, this poor guy, he's like the size of my kid when he was 11. Like, he's just this little tiny, like, poor, frail man. And he couldn't have possibly done all this stuff. And I think I just kind of go back and forth between, okay, he's guilty or he's innocent, or maybe he's guilty of something but not necessarily this. And it's just I'm just so glad that we have a judicial system that can straighten all that out, hopefully. And when he is adjudicated one way or the other, then hopefully, all of us will be able to be okay with whatever that decision is. So, but
okay.
Go ahead. No, you go.
Dig in deeper to this Odin thing because, to me, as an outsider, I look at it and go, this horse shit. But now, I know
Yeah.
okay. And listen,
I'm not an insider by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not
I
an
know
insider,
you're not.
but I'm not an
Not.
outsider either. And it sounds like horse shit to me too. But I know that it's probably not, So.
But it's probably not. That's exactly it. Because like in every little, thing that's thrown out, there's a little bit of truth. And that like that these guys may not be 100%, accurate, but there is truth there. And of course, in my mind, he already heard about these guys in some way or the other, and he like created a scene for it. But now, I want to follow law enforcement, perspective on it because, just who I am. I cannot, get away from that. But now, again, but now let me explain one last thing. I want you to tell me, something different, but my God, there's so many possibilities with this. When those guys, whenever a lawyer put this, 136 pages, and a lot of it's backed up with bibliography. I can't say that word right now. But what does this mean? I mean, is this real? Is this a? What do you think? Dig deeper.
Okay. So first of all, I do think it's real, and I want to be on the side of law enforcement, and I want to believe that they don't use false pretenses to mess with people's lives and throw them in jail, possibly have them executed on a foundation of lies. I want to believe that, but I don't believe it because time and time again, it's been shown, proven, and just absolutely, blatantly thrown in our faces that there's so much corruption in that the power will corrupt people. So there's going to be corruption in places of power, i.e. the justice system. And it's sad to me because I also want to believe in the justice system. And I say when he's adjudicated, then we know that the justice system put their stamp of approval on it. But do I even trust that anymore? And I think that it's telling a lot of the things that, Holman and, just Holman, like in things that they were quoting from his deposition, where he was saying that he believed he had the killer, and then he said exactly that Richard Allen killed those girls. Well, you're not allowed to say that because you work with the justice system and you took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and that Constitution says that people are to be presumed innocent until they are found guilty in a court of law. So the fact that they just don't seem to want to,
I want to know about Brad Holder. Does he work for law enforcement? What do you know about this guy?
I don't think he works for law enforcement at all. But, I do think that there are probably there probably are people who are protecting these organized crime syndicates, if you will, in the ranks of the government. It's just like the Division of Child Services, okay? They're notorious for being involved in child trafficking, CP stuff, that kind of thing. Because why? Because if you need an insider, or if you have an organized crime syndicate, if you have an organized crime syndicate and you're doing organized crime and you're going to be coming into contact with people who are in prison, in a secured facility where maybe nobody can get to that prisoner but a guard. But you're going to pay a guard who's only making $35,000 a year. You're going to pay him to get to that person. Or you're just going to basically have them on the payroll. I mean, I'm very familiar with the prison system in Indiana, and I can tell you that they are absolutely, it is a disgrace. There was a girl, her name was Princeola Shields, 19 years old. She was at the Indiana Women's Prison, and she had had just a minor disciplinary issue, like Her shirt was on inside out, I believe, in the dining hall. And the guards were just like picking on her. And she refused to, they were going to send her back to her dorm because they said that she wasn't properly dressed. And, you know, she kind of got loud with them and belligerent, I guess. And they ended up putting her in lock, which is the secure housing unit. And she had said that she was going to hurt herself. So instead of having her supervised like they're supposed to, they put her in the shower in lock by herself for 3 hours while she screamed for help. And nobody came to check on her. And she's supposed to have 24-hour close observation because she had made threats of self-harm. In addition, any inmate in prison, they're supposed to do their rounds every 15 minutes, regardless of where you are housed at the prison. Like, they have to make eye contact with you or make sure that you are there, present, breathing, all of that stuff, every 15 minutes, 15-minute checks. This girl was in the shower for 3 hours, and finally all the noise stopped. And when they went to check on her, because some of the other inmates were concerned because she had stopped screaming for help, the girl was dead. She had hung herself. And none of those, not only that, then they waited 15 minutes to even begin compressions. And it was 20 minutes before they called 911. And 3 years later, all those guards were still working there. Nobody had even been disciplined for any of that. And it's just...
Well, I want to tell you right now, like, a lot of people probably have no clue. You know, if you've ever looked into the justice system in the United States of America, it's very complicated, that's for sure. And there's a lot of people out there that meet the blunt edge of it harshly. But let me, given what you just spoken about, and I don't disagree with what you said, because I've actually, you know, like a lot of people, I'm going to say this right here, I've actually walked through a prison before. And a lot of people have no idea what it's even like to even go into one of those, quote unquote, one of those places. But as the audience we're trying to reach here, they've never been there. But we want to tell them a little bit, you know, about what's going on. And it's not always fair, for sure. But now, what about Richard Allen? You know, what do you think he's experiencing at Westfield up there?
I absolutely believe every single thing that his attorneys allege that has happened to him in there, as far as the threats and the harassment and the psychological, just, you know, manipulation. I believe 100% it all is plausible and probable. Not only plausible, but probable. I do not doubt at all that he is being treated, I mean, and just, if he's guilty, you know, if he is guilty, okay, well, that's different. Okay. But in the time being, he is innocent because he has not been proven guilty. So therein lies the problem, because when you get to prison from county jail, it's a totally different culture. So in jail, you know, even if you're accused of doing these things, you're still not going to be thrown to the wolves, so to speak. That is why prison is not for an unsentenced person. Prison is for people who have been adjudicated and sentenced and classified.
So let's break that down for 1 second. So he is in Westfield, which is a cold, hard place to be, as I understand it, specifically during the winter. Right? Okay.
Yes.
So this guy,
it is the worst of the worst there.
What now?
It's the worst prison in Indiana. It's in a state of disrepair. It's just, I mean, it's just terrible. Yeah. I'm actually very familiar with Westville. My father spent quite like 15 years of my life there. So when I was a very small child. But that's a story for a whole nother show. But
Well,
yeah, it's not a good place.
so you know where he's at, and you know what he's experiencing, and we don't know if he's guilty or innocent or what yet. Like you said, he's like being accused of this, and we don't know exactly what's going on, but now, there are some indications. Like if you were to tell me that Richard Allen is a bridge guy, I would say yeah. And I may even say that he may be guilty of the charge they gave to him, which is felony murder, instance of kidnapping. But now, there may be more to it than that. It may not be. What's your interpretation of it, Lauren? And by the way, let me say this. Lauren is not the same Lauren that was in the middle of an infraction with stuff that went on in Delphi a few months ago. This is
No. Yeah, that sucked because I would get blocked from people's YouTube chats and I would have no idea why, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I saw this, I don't know, it was like a short on someone else's channel where they were talking about some Lauren, I guess, I don't know, from Florida, but I question that because Florida is pretty small, and usually everybody knows everybody that has their name in a small town. So, like, I would know all the other Laurens. But anyway, yeah, that's definitely not, that's not the same Lauren. So as far as Richard Allen, oh, sorry, go ahead. What was your question again?
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I got distracted.
Go ahead and talk about, I want to open up to you. Tell me about Richard Allen.
Well, I think that, I can't say that I think they just picked some random person, just to pin this on. So there must have been, he knows people somehow that are involved, or there's something that made him easy to be framed, if that is in fact what happened. They're not just going to like put a bunch of names in a hat and draw one out and say, okay, this is the guy whose life we're going to ruin. It just seems pretty far-fetched that they would just, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think Carroll County is very corrupt, very. But I don't think they just randomly picked some, upstanding member of the community, like pastor, pillar of the community. He what?
He is not that. He is not
No.
He's like, but no, he is a guy that's been married for a long time, and that's a big thing. You can say what you want to, but like as a guy, I can tell you if you've been married to someone for 25 years and you commit murder, I mean, there's something going on. That's not some regular stuff you do,
There's just other things that don't make sense. Like, okay, the man, look, if he is what they say he is, if he did what they say he did, you mean to tell me this man had the balls to go and take two girls from a public trail in broad daylight, kill them there, and then take all this time to stage it and all that shit, and then walk back in broad daylight, in plain sight, muddy and bloody and all that nonsense, and then go back to his job at CVS where he probably saw 75% of the Delphi population at least once every week because there's very few places there to shop, and look the family in the eye and all that and give them their funeral pictures and everything, and he stays in the same house. He's got the same gun, the same jacket, the same pants, the same boots, the same, all these things that they're saying, are concrete evidence that he is the bridge guy. Never changed jobs, has the same wife, the same car, went on about business as usual, and then he gets arrested for a crime that he knows he committed, and he knows that the government has put every resource they have at solving this thing, okay? So he knows his time is limited, okay? These last 6 years, he's known. If he is in fact a bridge guy, he's known that day was coming. He was getting arrested. Now, all of a sudden, the man with the giant cojones that could face the family of these girls who he allegedly killed, for the last 6 years, go into the bar and drink with their aunt and whatnot. Now he gets arrested and all of a sudden he just falls to pieces. It doesn't make sense. Like, most people, when they've committed a crime like that, and they've had this long extended period of time where they've been, waiting to get caught, it's almost like they're relieved when they get arrested. They start talking, they start confessing, they start just really unloading, and it's like they almost start to thrive while they're awaiting trial. This man is falling apart. He does not... Go ahead.
Pause 1 second, though. Like, maybe he did confess, though. Did he? I mean, I don't know. That was one of the accusations by McClellan that he did confess to it a couple months back. Maybe he did not.
Right.
I don't know. We have never heard audio of it. Again, there's a lot of things that we don't know. Now, let me say this. He kind of does look like Bridge Guy, and everybody knows those blue jackets or black jackets, whatever it is. But, yeah, you're right. We don't know anything. And there was one thing in this whole 136 pages that stood out to me when it's like, they said DNA, but it was in parentheses. And that's the other thing. But the defense did not mention DNA specifically. But then again, I'm trying to play both sides here because I don't even know how. Because okay. So let's just move away from all this. Let's move away to Odinism. What do you know about Odinism in
not a goddamn thing. Not a goddamn thing. I'm just the first I ever heard of it was, like a year ago, and when we were talking about this stuff, and I looked into it for, very briefly, but I honestly didn't really seriously consider this because maybe it was something I didn't understand, or that wasn't necessarily in line with, like, because I'm not going to lie, I was looking for confirmation bias for some of the things that I suspected. But in a way, this does confirm a lot of the things I suspected, just a different, I guess I didn't really consider Odinism because I didn't know anything about it. I'd never even heard of it. But, I did feel like it had the markings of, like, an organized crime type thing, like, some sort of gang that, like the Aryan Brotherhood or something like that, some sort of, like, and then they had the non-secular thing that Robert Ives said, so I always kind of thought that it was probably like satanic or something like that. But, yeah, I don't know shit about it. I don't know anything about Odinism. I'm trying to catch up now, and it's like, whoa,
well,
this stuff is deep.
A lot of people are trying to equate Odinism with like Satanism, which is not the case. This is paganism. This is something that, like, occurred a long time ago, even before, like, before Christianity had reached,
right,
people that, like, that lived in areas very north. So you can call it whatever you want to, but, like, Odinism is like, it was a religion that a lot of people followed for a long time, okay? And it was based upon, like, just like Christianity. Like, we have the Christ being born on Christmas, and then, certain constellational things going on with the moon and the sun and all this kind of stuff. And then you have, the springtime and the renewal and the rebirth and the death and the rebirth and all that kind of stuff. But now Odinism is kind of a precursor for all of that, and but now Odinism also, as I understand it, has some darker ways because it's about, but now you said you didn't know anything about it. So I want to move on from it. But there's some darker aspects to Odinism that can play into the whole situation.
And it really seems like, according to all of the descriptions of the crime scene and everything, that was the signatures, if you will, that we've been hearing about for so long, it almost, to me, I would be remiss to not say that it has crossed my mind that it's so over the top, pointing to Odinism, that was a purposeful misdirection on the part of somebody, the actual offending party, whoever that may be, to do this thing and then make it look like, make it point to the most obvious suspect, which might be Brad Holder or that group of people. So I don't know, there's always so many questions.
Well, exactly. You would think that instead of making it so loud, that they would turn it down some. But then if they're protected and they're, if it was like a part of an initiation thing, then maybe the whole point is to make it. They want to make a point. They want to make a point.
Exactly. So you just don't know. I mean, you just don't know.
Well, it's been opened up now. So it's out there. This is not some fictional thing. This is a 130. It hasn't been approved by a judge yet, but okay. So
what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen now? I don't know. I think that if the judge doesn't seriously consider some of these things and make her rulings accordingly, I think that's just not very, that's not going to be very good. It's going to be hard for this. I think it's going to be hard for the case to proceed. And I think that if it does proceed and he is found guilty, I think it's going to be hard for it to stand up on appeal. My concern is that if he is in fact innocent, he's not going to make it till then. He's in some serious danger, in my opinion. And, it may be that he did this, and it may be that those confessions were real, and it may be all of these things, but that protection, equal protection under the law, even if he is later found guilty, the fact that he has to be protected until that point, because otherwise that just makes it so much easier, or it makes it possible that could happen to me or you or anyone else that maybe really is innocent. And I know that the reason I've been so I guess, adamant that I'm not going to be crucifying Richard Allen, because I don't know yet, and the courts haven't said yet, is because I just think about, God, my husband, Richard Allen had no record, on paper, him and my husband are exactly the same. What's to stop this from happening to my husband if he is being railroaded, And I just can't imagine having to live through that. It's just, I don't know, it's scary, because if we deny his rights, then someone else can deny ours, and it's like our whole justice system just doesn't mean anything.
Well, I mean, there's got to be due process there. Everything's got to be vetted out. Of course, that's exactly why there is a justice system available to all of us. And, they have presented this. And so maybe we can tease it out and figure out what's going on. I want to tell you right now, this whole thing has been so intriguing to me since day one. I hate to say I'm a day warner, but I've been watching the thing for a long time, and it's been so many ups and downs, and I would expect nothing less than this particular proclamation being involved with it. But now I want to, if you have a little bit of time, I want you to just tell me about, from your perspective, what this all means. I mean, we've talked about, we've kept it as clean as we can, but I want to give you a few minutes just to tell me, you just dig deep and tell me what you think is going on here. Help me read what's going on.
I mean, this this document that came out, the memorandum in support of the Franks or hearing or whatever it's called, I guess it's one thing to kind of think that maybe the stuff might have been a factor, you know, the Odinism or the ritualistic side of it. And it was definitely something that I came across in the past, and I considered it and thought about it. But then when it sort of, I guess, becomes real, it's like, wow, I didn't really expect to see any of that because I thought I was just crazy. I thought I was just crazy. I thought I was just some, like, crazy internet person that was finding, like, stuff that wasn't, like, connections that weren't really there. And honestly, like, I stepped away from Delphi for a while because I do sound kind of like I might be losing my mind. But it's validation and confirmation to see it on paper, but then it's also kind of scary to me. I don't know what to think, and it's still just hard for me to believe that, like, ritualistic killing actually happens. You know, you hear about it. You might know something is true, but you still can't believe it, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I know that this stuff goes on. I know that it does, but I don't believe it. I don't know how to explain that, if that makes sense. But it's just sort of like is it like a ambiguity or ambivalence? I'm not sure what the word is, but it's like knowing something is true and then being able to believe it sometimes don't necessarily intersect. But I don't know. I don't know what to think. I think that that Richard Allen could very well be afraid for his wife's safety, which is why he, you know, confessed. They said that on another show, they said that he had gotten good news. Well, and it said it in the lawyers. I think it was in the motion for to change the safekeeping order to get him moved, where the attorney said that they had gone to visit Rick. They had given him good news, and then that was when his decline started. And to me, I picked that apart, wondering what could this good news have been that would then cause him to downward spiral in his mental health and ultimately lead to his, you know, what I'm assuming is a false confession. Because if he had really confessed, like, he would have, I feel like they would have been in plea negotiations. They wouldn't be doing all of this. Because if a man is ready to confess, the man is going to confess. And if I feel like if the prosecution really thought that any of that shit was going to hold up, they would have, like, pushed the issue further, or they would have offered a plea. Because I don't really think they want all of this to go to trial. I know the family does not want it to go to trial because some things are probably, I'm not going to say probably, some things are going to come out that, you know, not necessarily incriminating the family in any way, but things that are uncomfortable that nobody wants to have to talk about. And that's just, unfortunately, how trials are. I just don't know. I think that it's very possible he was being threatened. I think that he was scared maybe for his wife's safety. I think that it's possible that they were telling him, you know, that he got good news, and then the prison or somebody somehow read, you know, his paperwork, and they're like, oh, man, we're going to have to really put pressure on him to get him to confess because maybe it named other people who might possibly be involved, you know, this good news that he got. And I think he maybe got scared for his wife and his family, and he's like, I'm gonna confess to this because then if I confess to it, then it'll be over, and these other people's names will never get brought up, and they won't be prosecuted, and then my family will stay safe. So when I read that, you know, that the defense kind of was using that idea or that angle as well, That was just another thing that I felt confirmed that maybe I might have been on the right track. People might have been on the right track to think that. And I don't ever want it to sound like I'm saying, oh, I broke this news first. I could give a shit about that. Like, I don't know. I'm sure I learned about it from someone else. So that's never what this is about. I'm just saying for my own personal satisfaction of knowing, that I might have been on the right track, and it's good to know that I'm not crazy, that that I think what the defense is saying is probably true. I mean, we came across it independent from each other, so.
Well, I'm going to say right now, it is left to be open. Good night, my friend Lauren.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
It is left to be open. Good night, my friend Lauren.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
It is left to be open. Good night, my friend Lauren.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
It is left to be open. Good night, my friend Lauren.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
It is left to be open. Good night, my friend Lauren.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
It is left to be open. Good night, my friend Lauren.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
It is left to be open. Good night, my friend Lauren.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
It is left to be open. Good night, my friend Lauren.
You poisonous ants.